Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just going to do my video on the book of Revelation. This is comprehensive. It's going to take some time for me to go through this, so I just ask for your patience as I go through every chapter in the book of Revelation, and just walk through it. It's basically like a tile, a quilt, a fabric, that needs some amount of discernment and to understand, and linking it up with other parts of the Bible is also very, very important to give it structure. But the most important take home here will be a sequence of the end times. And I believe that we're living in those days. So I believe this is a very urgent message, a very relevant message for people to pay close attention to what I'm sharing here. And so let's get started. So just first and foremost, just to preface all of this, this is my testimony of my Jesus, and my entire channel called The Mind of God. I have the link down there, is me lobbying, advertising, representing, sharing things that the Spirit that's interacting with me is teaching me. And so I want that to be known if it's not obvious. And Revelation 19:10 says, "And I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy." To me, there's a reason why this saying is in Revelation, because I believe that anybody who claims to be sharing Jesus Christ has to have some amount of testimony of prophecy, and this is, I would say, is my contribution. I would say probably the most important contribution that will live on my channel in the past and going forward. And so this is my testimony, and this is my interpretation of the very, very prophetic statements written in the entire Bible, but in particular the book of Revelation. And I believe they apply very, very much so to the days that we're living in now. And so that's my YouTube channel. I'm going to reference, other videos after I post this video on my channel, and I'll put them, in the links in the description box below. And just a few that will sort of support, this and go into more detail. This is detailed, but still somewhat of a high level. Again, the main thing I want to get across is the sequence of events and prove that, my interpretation, my understanding of the sequence is, what is attempting to be conveyed, through this book and then through supporting books of the Bible. And so, I also put my email there if anybody wants to interact with me and ask questions and all that kind of stuff. This book is very, very important. And what I've realized now is that without knowing it, the entire Bible will not make sense. I'm not saying it's not useful and hasn't been an impactful book for us throughout our life, but I would say, especially, like I said earlier, the Jesus that's interacting with me, nobody can understand that Jesus unless they understand this presentation and this book. So Revelation, and thus the entire Bible, will not make sense unless you're open to the following. And this presentation will not make any sense if you have very, very serious issues with any one of these points. And so, I would just say be patient, be humble, be open, to some of these things that are listed here being true if you don't believe them already. First and foremost, one sin equals all sin. That just means that nobody has a chance of interacting with God at all. This is including myself. That is absolutely non-negotiable. And if a person doesn't even know what sin is, it's better to look at other videos on my channel. And then the Bible makes an audacious claim in many places that a person who commits one sin is actually guilty of every single one. And so defining what a sin is needs the Bible, and then having the humility to link that one sin to all sin is also very, very necessary for God to reveal any amount of truth to us. And so, second point is also important. God of the Bible's laws are still relevant today, even if it's just a hymn. Therefore, this means that the Bible is authoritative and narrates our entire existence. So just because God doesn't seem to be around, or there seems to be a lawless world, that doesn't mean that God's laws are in effect and God doesn't care. Jesus was dark-skinned. There are many, many verses. I have an entire video on my channel dedicated to that. And many of the so-called Negroes are the biblical Jews. And we'll go into that as well a little bit in this video. And I cover that as well. in a video on my channel, and I'll put the link in the description below. UFOs are the clouds, chariots written of in the Bible. This is very, very important. There's a lot of people out there saying that these UFOs are aliens and demons and all that kind of stuff, which shows how backwards this world is. So if you don't have an opinion on it, or if you believe that they're evil, just be patient. It will be very clear that, again, the entire Bible will not make sense if a person deems those objects flying in the sky as evil, because that's the complete opposite of what is true, is that they are actually holy, righteous, administering God's judgments across the earth. Reincarnation is extremely important. I didn't realize it until maybe more recently, but I have a video on my channel, and this video will serve to support that even more. It's very, very clear. None of these words can come true in this book unless reincarnation is real, and what God uses to reinfuse souls into different time periods. America is modern day Sodom and Gomorrah and Egypt, and the focal point of the end times narrative. A person's hung up on this mainstream Christianity rendition of the end times, that it's all in Israel and focused in the Middle East and all that kind of stuff. That's a distraction. To me, those people are lost, and they're looking in the wrong place. And everything that I teach in this video requires that a person understands this. And this should be very, very obvious, that America is the heartbeat of the evil on earth. God is the author of good and evil. This should be obvious just from a pure logical perspective. If there is one entity, the Most High, that made everything that exists after that is an output of His creative power, and that is the concept of good and evil, and His expression of good is represented perfectly in Jesus Christ. The current earth realm is hell, and death only occurs in this realm. This is important. This is subtle, but very, very similar actually to the UFOs or the clouds and chariots in the Bible, because we have to understand everything going on here is evil, and everything, quote, up is of God, in the heavenly realm, for sure. And then also, objects flying around in the heavens, that are doing objects or doing maneuvers that, we don't even understand. And so everything that is hellish, that is death, is occurring here on earth. And this is very, very important to understand the whole narrative, and then also some, very, very particular verses where the book of Revelation says that death and hell were cast into a literal lake of fire. Those verses will not make sense if a person cannot accept this truth. So this slide is very, very important. I would say for people, keep coming back to this, and I put this slide in other parts of the presentation just to kind of, refresh people's memory. But this is really it. This is the entire book of Revelation summarized here, really, in this one slide. And really everything in the Bible has led up to this, this time of this quote-unquote end of the end. And so there's actually technically sort of two end times. The way Jesus describes it in Matthew 24 is that He says that those who endure till the end will be saved. That is the group of 144,000. And again, I'll walk through how the entire book of Revelation supports Jesus' words. That is the end where I mark with the first arrow, where the 144K/elect are saved, taken, redeemed, delivered from the entire earth. And this is actually the thing that will be used to implement and force the mark of the beast worldwide. So I would say the mark of the beast is implemented now on a voluntary basis, but this event, which I believe is coming soon, will be the trigger for the end of the end. And so Jesus uses two ends when he's talking in Matthew 24 to his disciples. This is the first end. This is those who endure till the end will be saved. And then this is the official kickoff of the end times. And so the four major time periods, or I guess five major, is in that I'm going to delineate in this presentation, is prior to and including World War II, the atomic bomb. From that point back will be one time period. From then until what I would call now modern day is whenever on the slide, I'll actually depict which of these buckets that we're in. And so I'll describe from World War II onwards to now as modern day. And then from when the elect are saved, taken, redeemed, delivered, from that point and exactly 3.5 years to the day after that will be a 3.5-year Great Tribulation period. And then the final is God's wrath. And that is a time where God is destroying everybody who has the mark of the beast. Everybody on earth during that time will have the mark of the beast, and there will be no one on God's right-hand side. He'll essentially just be cleaning up the entire earth. And that is described, very much in detail and then referenced in many, many chapters throughout the whole book. So this sequence is what a person would need to understand in order to understand the sequence of, everything in Revelation. Because Revelation, every chapter and every other book, Matthew and 2nd Ezra and all that, follow this time period as well. And so there is a 7-year period total, of Jacob's trouble, and the 3.5 years leading up to the 144K elect being saved is what we're living in right now. And so we will know only the end of that 3.5-year time period when the elect are taken away. And so we technically don't even know the beginning of it, because we would again need to know when the end of it was. And so that day is reserved only for the Most High to know. And that's written in Matthew, where those days are to be shortened for the elect's sake. And so that is the 7-year period that's referred to, commonly when talking about end times. And I believe we're living in the first half of the 3.5 year, and it's coming to an end, very soon. And so, the second 3.5 year period is very, very important. It's when the gospel will be preached worldwide, the true gospel, the actual gospel, not by Masons, Satanists, people trying to profit off of the Bible, people telling half-truths and all that kind of stuff. The true gospel, the actual gospel, will be preached worldwide by 2 witnesses who are on Jesus' left and right-hand side. These are actual people, and they will be prophesying here in America in sackcloth, dressed very, very humbly. And you have to be humble to be close to Jesus Christ, and they are the embodiment of that. And that's a very, very important time period where the entire world will be tested for their faith in God or their allegiance to the government and the beast system that is now very, very obvious that it's working worldwide. So just keep this timeline in mind. I'm going to keep referencing it over and over. And, it's really the structure, the main sort of take-home message. And then I'll put the Bible verses in place to support this timeline. And so on each of my slides, I'll also put one of these 5 labels just to let people know which time frame I'm referring to. And these are the main time frames, in modern day. There was pre-World War II. There's modern day, which is World War II onwards, let's say the dropping the atomic bomb, and then to now. Then there's the 3.5 year Great Tribulation with the 2 witnesses, which I believe is coming soon. The 4th is America, Bird, and God's wrath. That whole period of time is when the earth is only filled with God's left-hand side. Everybody will have the mark of the beast. And then the 5th one is the kingdom of heaven being established on earth. And so every chapter in this book fits into one of these 5 periods or may reference all of them. But the sequence will always hold, and I want people to make note of that. The sequence will never be broken, which is why we can have comfort that this is the true interpretation of the Bible. Another thing that the Bible uses throughout the entire book of Revelation are 3 woes. And I just put the 3 woes here just to understand mentally how they fit into this timeline. And so the first woe ends literally on Revelation 9, 11, and 22. That's why Revelation 9, 11 is a very, very important verse. And then the actual event in human history of 9/11 is the ending of the first woe. And so that is when there's officially a one world government in place, and we'll go over the verse in the presentation. That's officially this, quote, new world order, where now all the governments are aligned and they're all working together. They're actually, believe it or not against one another. They're actually now aligned as one world, as a one world government, preparing for Christ's return, when he is going to come in wrath, to destroy. And so all these things support this, fake moon landing. If you're a flat earther, the Bible supports a flat stationary earth. We get all this for free because we know all the governments are aligned, and working together for some ultimate objective. And I'll explain what that is really through this whole presentation. And so the first woe has passed. It's in relatively recent history. The second woe is the 3.5 year Great Tribulation period. and explicitly said after that that's when the second woe was done, and then the third woe is implied to be God's wrath. And so those are the three woes that are talked about in the book of Revelation. And so this figure is also very, very important to understand. This is the actual body of Christ. This body needs to be understood in order to understand the book of Revelation and really the entire Bible, that this is the structure. We have Jesus Christ, who is the top spirit on the right-hand side. Right below him, we have John the Baptist, who is Elijah in the reincarnation. And that's also stated explicitly that amongst those born of men, John the Baptist is the greatest. So if there was a slight hierarchy, that's why I put Elijah on the right-hand side, if you were Jesus Christ looking outwards, and Moses and John the Revelator on the left. And so I'll explain the link between Moses and John the Revelator in this video. I believe that John the Revelator is Moses in the reincarnation. And John the Revelator is the one that's receiving this entire book. And there's a verse that, there's multiple verses that seem to indicate that, he's involved as one of the two witnesses. And so the two witnesses are Elijah and Moses. And below them are the 24 elders. Below them are the 144,000 in Revelation 7:3. And the rest of God's right-hand side, which are described as a mixed multitude, are in Revelation 7, verse 9. And so anytime we see or reference the 144,000, they will always come before the mixed multitude, and then they both will always come after, the 24 elders. And so this is very, very important. This is the sequence of events. This is the body of Christ as well. And then this structure and hierarchy is very, very important to understand how God is redeeming his people from the earth. And it will be done in a sequential way. And this is the hierarchy. And the closer a person gets to the top, they are more and more inclined to servanthood. And like I read earlier in that verse about the testimony of Jesus Christ is a spirit of prophecy. And so the closer a person is to Jesus Christ, they will be more and more inclined to prophecy. And so those two witnesses are going to be prophesying, in the Great Tribulation period. And then for the rest of us, we are given understanding as well. And then this is our testimony. So just to begin, Revelation chapter 1 starts off with two very, very important truths that will make it so that a person will not understand the entire Bible unless they can accept it. And it applies to things that are going on in the past and also relevant today, to modern day. And so in the top right corner, I put the two time periods that it refers to. And then I also put beneath it, I'll put my channel. I'll write TMOG channel, the Mind of God channel, because then I'll have videos somewhere on my channel. I have over like 500 videos, but if a person wants to know the specific video I'm talking about, I can put the links in below, but by chapter. And so actually I'll do that. That's a good idea. So if it ever says TMOG channel in the top right, that means I have another video on my channel that will go into this deeper. But the main takeaways from Revelation chapter 1 is that Revelation 1:7 says, "Those who pierced him shall see him." And so that means that those who physically pierced Christ in the past will see him again. And that means that they are reincarnated. They're back here on the earth right now. Revelation 1:15 says that Jesus is dark skin. It says that his feet are of fine brass as burned in a furnace. People might wonder, why not just say, Jesus is dark skin? It's hidden. These are encoded truths. God doesn't want people who can't accept many things to read the Bible and understand it. And so these are very, very important, and there are clues given right at the beginning in order for us to first understand reincarnation, because it's everywhere in the Bible, especially in Revelation. And if a person doesn't understand that Jesus is dark skinned, like I said earlier, they'll be looking in the Middle East thinking that those are the biblical Jews, when in fact the biblical Jews are here in America. And many of the so-called Negroes are the biblical Jews. Revelation 2:7 also makes a very, very important statement, and is used many times by Jesus himself in Revelation 2:7. "He that hath an ear, let him hear." These are encoded truths. And so I want people to know that don't be discouraged if not many people get it, really anything about the Bible, because it's not meant for very many people. And Jesus gives anybody the ability to understand truth. He gives it to them himself. Revelation 2 and 9 again reiterates that that there will be a group of fake Jews, and it applies to the historical time when the letters were being written to the 7 churches, but it also applies now in modern day. There's a layered understanding of Revelation 2 and 9 that in modern day as well, we're going to have a group of Jewish people that are claiming to be the biblical Jews, but do not cite or reference or read or distribute any truth from the Bible. But we will have the real Jews who will be, looking similar to Jesus, having dark skin and white and woolly hair. And so there are other prophecies, and the video that I went into that I have on my channel where I talk about Jesus being dark skinned will explain, how this is true. And it's very, very important to unlock the book of Revelation. Okay, so chapter 3, again, uses the same terminology as Revelation 2 and 9, reminding us again that even in those, in that other church, in the churches described in Revelation 2 and in Revelation 3, there were people in those groups who are pretending to be Jews, but they're not. And so, they would be sowing evil, sowing falsities, not following the law and all that kind of stuff. And we have that to an exaggerated degree to this day. And so we're reminded of that again in Revelation 3 and 9. Revelation 3:10, also, when speaking to that church in Philadelphia, it alludes to a group that will be withheld from the hour of temptation to test the entire world. And so this, again, will give us insight into the fact that there's going to be a select group that are taken away first, and then there will be this, quote, hour of temptation. And so a group being withheld is the elect. There will be an hour of temptation, which is a 3.5-year period of the 2 witnesses prophesying during the Great Tribulation. And just know for the language, especially in the book of Revelation, an hour will typically mean a 3.5-year period, which is 42 months and 1,260 days. And so those are all one-to-one, and that's very important to know. And so this hour of temptation is 3.5-year period where people will literally be tempted to take the mark of the beast, just to preserve their life. And those with common sense and then also understanding of the Bible will know it's better to give up their life in order to declare to the world that they're on God's right-hand side and then resist this evil system worldwide. And Revelation 3 and 12 also foreshadows the kingdom of heaven, which is the last 2 chapters of the book of Revelation. It describes new names being assigned, that the temple is actually constructed of souls, and this is why Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is here among you. He's saying that it's people, it's souls, and it will ultimately be established here on earth, so there will be a new heaven established on a replenished earth. But the temple is referred to as a group of souls, 144,000 to be specific. Revelation chapter 4, this is an amazing scene, actually. It's difficult for us to sort of wrap our mind around, but it's essentially the beginning. I would say the entire book of Revelation is very formal in the way it begins, and then it unleashes destruction, to some degree or another, or in some way or another. But this is like the beginning of the church service, up in the heavens. And so it's basically the setup of the end times. It's like an opening prayer. And in Revelation 4 and 6, it says, before the throne there was a sea of glass. And this, I believe, is referring to the firmament, where in Job 37:18 it's described as the molten looking glass. So this is like an event, that's going on above the firmament, in the, quote, spirit realm. But they're looking down, and John the Revelator is seeing this just a huge molten looking glass, this sea of glass. And so this is an event, a, quote, church service in the heavens, and it's all he's seeing a vision of the throne of God above earth, in the heavenly realm. John the Revelator also sees 4 beasts multiplied by 6 wings, which are symbolic of the 24 elders. And so the 24 elders are represented by 4 beasts, a lion, a calf, a man, and an eagle. I believe those are representative of 4 different kind of characteristics of God, of Jesus Christ. He's described as a lion in many places. He's described as the Son of God, so a calf, an offspring. He's came in human form, and an eagle is described and used as destruction. And so he has these characteristics. And, a person, John the Revelator, seeing this vision is seeing things that are representing, Christ's personality. And then it also says that these 24 elders are full of eyes within. And so they are introspective and can see many things. So they're very wise. They have great insight and detail. And they are very close to Jesus. Apart from the two witnesses, these are an elite group of people. I would suspect, people like King David and the disciples, Apostle Paul, and that kind of thing. So they're very close to Jesus. They're powerful and each have a very specific role and purpose. Revelation 4:11 says, and this is a very, very important verse for really to understand the entire Bible and really to understand our entire existence, that it says, for thou hast created all things for thy pleasure. And so God has made everything physical, everything spiritual, everything God has made. And he's doing this for his pleasure. And that's an incredible thing, that this is pleasurable to him. And then the part that it will be a reward for those on God's right-hand side is we'll understand in the last 2 chapters of the book of Revelation, the kingdom of heaven, and then we'll get a sense of what all this build-up was for, and then we'll get an understanding of the things that please God for eternity. Chapter 5 is very symbolic, but it's again continuing on of this scene, this quote church service above the firmament in the heavenly realm, and it's describing a book with writing on the inside, and on the back side of it had 7 seals. And so if you look at the Holy Bible and you look at the back of it, that book will be the book of Revelation. No matter what, is whether you have the Apocrypha or not, the book of Revelation is the final book, the final saying. And so it's symbolic of 7 seals that are to be loosed, and the only person that's able to loose these is Jesus Christ. And so there's a ceremony in heaven, and he is the only one that has the power to loose these, and it is after his work on the cross. And so once he is taken away back in the spirit realm, this service happened, this church service. And so that's why I put pre-World War II. This has happened in history, that after Christ's work on the cross, he has now, from that time to now, been loosing these 7 seals. So the important thing now is that they're going to start, opening up the book of Revelation, and breaking those seals, and then they're going to release those judgments on earth. And so these have all happened. These are things in the past that I believe have led up to this world that we live in right now. The first seal is a white horse, which was out set to conquer. We'll have a second seal. There was a second seal, which is a red horse for blood, and it describes war. There was a third seal that was a black horse, which is meant to go out and create inflation. And we've seen that happen just throughout all of this money system in the world, just paper money and all that kind of stuff, not being backed by gold. The fourth seal is death and hell, and it was a pale horse. And so that is all the wars, all the stuff that's happened in the past, World War I, World War II, and just all of the calamity that's happened throughout human history, including those 2 major wars, is the fourth seal. The fifth seal is martyrs given a white robe, told that more people need to die. And so everybody that is in the quote heavenly realm, that is not now reincarnated into the time frame that we live in now, they are just told to wait. They are people that have passed away and are in the spirit world, and then they're urging God, anxious for God to end it all, get us to the end of the end. And they're just told to wait more time because more people have to pass away and be martyrs like them. And so the great tribulation still has to happen. And that's that 3.5 year period where the 2 witnesses are prophesying. The sixth seal sets off a great earthquake. The sun became black and moon became blood. It was not described as the greatest earthquake, which is different than another earthquake later on. It was just a great earthquake. The sun became black and moon became blood. These happened, routinely throughout human history. And then it also describes a picture of heaven departing up as a scroll, which I believe refers to as an atomic bomb. And so if you look at that picture in the top right corner, That's what it looks like. It's like literally the atmosphere turned into a scroll, when an atomic bomb is dropped. And so that's in Revelation 6:14. And so I believe everything in Revelation 6 is pre-World War II, including World War II. And those are the 6 seals that have already been loosed on the earth. And we're living in a time now of the 7th. And so Revelation 7 verse 3 also says that there will be no major worldwide destruction until the 144,000 are sealed in their mind, where God's elect who have no guile in their mouth, and they're possibly literal virgins. And so this again will follow the same sequence everywhere in the book of Revelation. Is 144,000 sealed, redeemed, then the Great Tribulation, and then wrath of God. And so this is a very, very important chapter, because John is seeing the 144,000 being sealed, and just know that the way God does it is that he doesn't do it through a electronic device. He does it directly through people's minds, and he's interacting with them directly, through the Spirit. And so he doesn't need a physical mark or anything like that. And so you can see the way God operates with the right-hand side is the opposite of the way Satan operates here with the left-hand side. So it's a complete opposite of the mark of the beast. Then he sees a vision of a great multitude. And then he's asked, who are those, that he's seeing? And he's been told that they are those who came out of the Great Tribulation period. And so he always sees the elect first, like I showed on the body of Christ image, always the elect first. And then he sees a mixed multitude. And so these are people that are going to be tried. It could be us, through a Great Tribulation period. And we're going to be tempted with the mark of the beast. And so those who resist with their life will be a part of that mixed multitude, and they'll come from all nations on earth. So again, this chapter reiterates the sequence. 144K are sealed and delivered. The great multitude who came out in the Great Tribulation are stated next. And then the kingdom of heaven is described. And so this sequence, again, is consistent throughout everywhere, and then so it gives us comfort that is exactly the way it will happen. So this sequence repeats itself, and I've done a video on Matthew 24 that I'll reference, Revelation, and I'm just completing, my weekly streams on 2nd Esdras, but all those 3 books support, this sequence. And so would the entire Bible, because it's all internally consistent. Okay, so this is the modern day now. So there's 6 seals that have been loosed, and that judgment has been taken out on earth, and so this is now modern day. And so the 7th seal is loosed by an angel, and then now this 7th seal actually has 7 trumpets, and so this 7th seal has 7 things that are going to happen sequentially. And so we go through them, and so I believe that these represent from World War II until now. The first angel trumpet destroys 1/3 of the trees. And so I want people to know that this does not mean like 3 trees, then 1 is burned, that kind of thing. It's symbolic. This is very, very sort of high level understanding of what's been happening from World War II until now, is that there's been a scarcity of resources. Things have been destroyed over time. And we even see with these wildfires in Australia and all that, like the whole world has just been killed, but not completely, but there has been death, steady amount. And the 1/3, I don't think is meant to be literal. I believe it's actually symbolic of 1/3 is 33% and like Freemasonry. And we see God telling us really in very obvious ways that there is this agenda in modern day to have order out of chaos. And so this is the chaos. There will be trees burned. There will be sea creatures dying and the ships destroyed with the 2nd angel and trumpet. And then we see this, we just see animals like just coming off the shore, just dying. Ships are being destroyed, which represents slowing down of the economy. The 3rd angel releases wormwood, where 1/3 of the water become polluted and some die as a result. And so we see pollution of the water. And the 4th angel trumpet says that the day will not shine for 1/3 part. So now this to me is alluding to chemtrails, air pollution from all the factories and all the money-hungry, leaders on earth. and it could also be double meaning relating to solar and lunar eclipses. And so these are the sequence of events for the first 4 trumpets, the first 4 angels. And I want people to understand we're living in an age right now of, like that image shows in the top right, of, quote, order out of chaos. And this is the new world order, and we saw it officially begin as of September 11th, 2001. And so this is the age that we live in. And, the 1/3 to me represents a reduction, a weakening, and that's consistent with 2 Ezra 14:17, where it talks about the earth, undergoing decay. And this whole chapter is littered with 33 symbolism. Wormwood is WW, which is 33. If you tilt the W sideways, you get 2 3s. World War also is 33. And to me, this is the modern day period of order out of chaos implemented by Freemasons for God's left-hand side. And so these are all things that have happened, and are currently happening right now. And the end of this will be signified by, again, like I said, the 9/11, event. And so that's when we know officially that we are under a one world government system. And so the 5th angel trumpet has a vision of locusts. And so this also is in modern day. This to me represents all of America's modern day wars and includes the 9/11 false flag. And so Revelation 9:7-9 describes these locusts as having a head of hair like a woman. And so if you look at that picture on the right, if you're a person in the past, thousands of years ago, and you were shown that and you had no idea what that is, you would describe it as a locust, and it has even 4 legs to stand on, and it has a propeller, as hair like a woman. And so this John the Revelator is seeing pictures of modern day warfare, modern day technology, and doing the best that he can to describe it. And he calls it a locust, with a head of hair like a woman. And Revelation 9:6 prophesies suicide and attempted suicides, that people will want to die and want to kill themselves, but they will not succeed. But it just gives us a sense that people will be longing for death, in these days. And finally, the build up, the lead up to Revelation 9:11, where it's described as one evil king will now be ruling over the entire earth, and that is Satan, Apollyon, Abaddon, however you describe it. There is now a one world government in place, and then the Bible says in 9:12 that is the end of the first woe, and there will be 2 more to go. And so this is very, very important for us, in the times that we live in, because again, all these things are happening, and to me, all these things are going to start happening more and more frequently, and it's going to be very obvious, to all of us that if it's not already, that God is interacting with us, and visiting the world that He's made through evil. And so another amazing vision that he's seeing, John the Revelator seeing in Revelation 9:16 and 17, is a 200,000 horsemen. So he's seeing 200 million horsemen, but if you read the description of the horsemen, it is describing a missile, in rocket technology. And so people will wonder, what does that mean? What is the purpose of that? Well, for someone to understand the entire Bible and the book of Revelation, the final battle is Jesus Christ and his angels destroying everybody on the left-hand side who's on earth. Billions of people. And so these people on the left-hand side, Satan, who, like I said, in Revelation 9:11, are now under one king, Abaddon, and in the Greek tongue, his name is Apollyon. They all know that what's going on, what they're preparing for. And so all this military spending, all this $1 trillion missing, all of the NASA money is going towards creating weapons that will be used to destroy America first, but then ultimately to fight against these UFOs. And so that is this stockpile, and that's why all the government leaders, they seem to be beefing, but they seem to have a weird sort of friendliness, about them. They're still laughing and joking when they meet up, at the UN and all that kind of stuff, because they know, what's going on and what they're all collectively preparing for. And this is what they have in store, to fight. And that's where all the money's going, in case people are wondering. And so that now the sixth angel in the trumpet, they loose the four angels from the Euphrates River. And so this is something is happening again in modern day, where there is now a preparation for the final battle of Armageddon. And so all of this stuff after the first woe is in modern day, from 9/11 until now, is a huge amount of financial resources, intellectual resources going towards jointly preparing, for this final battle. And so there is things going on in the Middle East that are very, very important, not in the immediate future, but for the final battle. And so all this stuff going on right now between America and Iran is just a buildup for something to happen in the future. And so this is very, very important. Again, I just want people to know that Revelation 9 is speaking about modern day right now. And so Revelation chapter 10 starts transitioning to more looking towards the future. And so Revelation 10:9, John digests what's called a little book. And I believe that this is the book of Revelation. It's not the entire book, but he digests the little book. And so he needs this because what it says in verse 10:11, he's going to prophesy again before all people. And so notice also when he digests this book, it will taste sweet in his mouth, but it will be bitter in his belly. So it's going to taste good. He's going to be like, wow, like I have understanding now. It sounds great. Everything sort of makes sense. But it's going to be bitter because he is going to be, and I believe based on the next verse in Revelation 10:11, that he is Moses. He is one of the two witnesses. And so he has been given understanding of the last days, and it tastes good, but when it enters his stomach, he'll know now, like he's going to be in a time of death. And this is, to me, a way for anybody to discern a modern day prophet, is that they should have an understanding, they should speak of an understanding, but also have this feeling in their stomach of like fear, of what's about to come, on earth. And so in Revelation 10:11, it says, you must prophesy again before all people. And so that's only possible with modern day technology. And so I believe that John the Revelator, who is the one that Jesus loves the most out of his disciples, is Moses in the reincarnation. And so he is one of the two witnesses, and he will indeed be prophesying again with John the Baptist, who is Elijah. And so Jesus said that John the Baptist is the greatest among men, and he also said that, and it's believed that, the Apostle John is the one that is most loved. And so those are the two most esteemed spirits in the Bible. And so they will be working together, prophesying in America, during that 3.5 year tribulation period. And so in Mark 10:37, where the disciples were clamoring, asking Jesus, can they be on his left and right hand side when he appears in glory? That is appear to have been settled, in the book of Revelation, that those two seats are reserved for Moses, who is John the Revelator, and John the Baptist, who is Elijah. And they're appointed by the Most High. Jesus says those seats are not for him to decide who are filled. It's been determined, from the beginning by the Most High. Because again, this is his whole narrative. He created everything for his pleasure. And so that's a very, very important chapter that gives us a sense again about the two witnesses and what their role is. So this, to me, is possibly the most important chapter in the whole book of Revelation, because none of it will make sense unless a person is given understanding about this. And I have a very, very extensive video on this, and so I'll reference that as well. But the question that is asked and answered here is, like it said here in in chapter 10, you must prophesy again before all people. That again can only happen in modern day, where an individual or a group of individuals could prophesy to the entire world and preach the true gospel, which no one has on earth right now. We have crumbs, we have a certain amount of truth, but the true gospel has to come from God's left and right hand side. John the Baptist and Moses. And so that's who's going to do this. And this chapter explains that there will be a literal period of 3.5 years where these two individuals, these two witnesses, will be prophesying and administering plagues on the entire world. And so this thing also is very, very sequential. And it's also important to know that it's a fixed time period of 1,260 days, 3.5 years, or 42 months. And so this chapter 11 gives us more insight into who these two witnesses are, how we would be able to discern, what is being spoken of here. And so these two witnesses are described based on their power, and their role. And so it's said that they have the power to shut the heavens to make it not rain, just like Elijah has done, in human history. And it's written of as well in James 5:7. And so he seems to be the very likely candidate to be one of them. And he's John the Baptist. John the Baptist and Elijah are the same spirit. And also, they're told that they're going to be administering plagues of turning water to blood, just as Moses did in Exodus chapter 7. And so just by what they're described that they're to do, it makes sense that it would be Elijah and Moses, that will be here, prophesying, dressed in sackcloth, very humble, and they'll have a tremendous amount of power, because when a person reads Revelation 16, again, this chapter starts off with the temple, the spiritual temple, and then goes into plagues, that are listed sequentially, and then they are the ones that are described of that these two witnesses will administer. And the first one will be to smite the world with people with sores who have the mark of the beast. And so this is Revelation 16 is the output of these two witnesses during the Great Tribulation period. And so they'll have a tremendous amount of responsibility. They'll be hated. They'll have a tremendous amount of power to administer things going on in the world everywhere. And so this is that final 3.5 year period, and this is when it's bad. Thankfully, it's not lasting forever, but it's a bad time everywhere on earth for sure. And we're given a clue as to where these two witnesses will be prophesying. It says their bodies will lie in the streets of the great city known spiritually as Sodom in Egypt, and when our Lord was crucified. And so this tells us now where they will be, physically. And this is why the Bible is tricky, because a person could read this and know that spiritually Sodom and Egypt is obviously America. Anybody with common sense would know that. And, it's supported in many, many places that is the case, and you don't really have to look far to know that describes America perfectly. Egypt is a term used for bondage and slavery. And so America has essentially enslaved the entire world through its sanctions, wars, all that, false flag wars and all that kind of stuff. And it is the main proponent of homosexuality being a virtuous lifestyle. And so the trick is where our Lord was crucified. That's where the Bible purposely puts in a hook there to take people away to the Middle East, and people will think these two people will be in the Middle East prophesying when that is not the case. Moses led his people out of Egypt many years ago, and it will be the same now, except the modern day Egypt is America. And so Elijah and Moses will be prophesying here in America. It's probably likely that they're alive, that they've been living in the background, and not out in the forefront. And they're described as being dressed in sackcloth, so they're likely very poor, and meek, and humble. And they will then begin their ministry of 3.5 years once the elect are raptured. So again, I just want to use this picture to refresh people's memory. This is very, very important. And so many of the things have already happened, but there's also a great deal of things that are going to happen, but they're going to happen in a relatively condensed period of time of a 3.5 year Great Tribulation period and then God's wrath. And so quite a bit of human history has passed if this is the narrative and this is the way that it ends. So again, just some kind of interesting things about Revelation 11. Nothing is by coincidence, and when it comes to the God of the Bible, he's brilliant at everything, including numerology. Not a coincidence that Revelation 11:3 describes his 2 witnesses. So the number 33 for God's right-hand side is virtuous. The left-hand side takes it and attaches it to it, Freemasonry and all that kind of stuff. But 33 is a number that is a quote good number, to represent, God's right-hand side. Whereas 66 or 666 is referred to his left-hand side and evil. And so 11:3 refers to his 2 witnesses, which are his prized possession. And then in 11:6, which if you multiply 2 numbers, you get 66, it talks about the plagues that they'll administer. And so, the plagues in Revelation 16 align perfectly with the roles of the 2 witnesses, turning water into blood, putting sores on people. And it says that they'll have the ability to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. So God has given them also some amount of freedom as well, beyond what is explicitly written in Revelation 16. So people cannot mess with them. If they have the ability to put sores on people that they don't even see or know anywhere around the world, no one can come up to them and harm them until the end of the 3.5-year period. And so the end of that 3.5-year period is marked precisely by what's called a great earthquake. And it's an earthquake that has never been experienced ever. And so it has the power to literally, split, America. And so for people, if you see stuff, online, people having visions of New York being flooded or California being flooded and all that, this is the time. This is the time when America has just been completely decimated, and so there's been plagues sent throughout the entire world, but America is officially, we're now experiencing its destruction through this 3.5-year period time, and it's marked the ending of this 1,260-day period, 3.5 years, 42 months, by a great earthquake. And so this will be the time when the 2 witnesses' dead bodies are taken away by a UFO, and then this great earthquake will happen. And there's parallels. That great earthquake is described in 11:13, and then also in Revelation 16:18 also speaks of that same great earthquake. And so that's why we know Revelation 11 and Revelation 16 are coupled together. They're not next to each other. This is like a quilt. God does this on purpose. If a person doesn't link those 2 together, they'll get confused. They'll have no idea what's going on. And so this is the official end of the second woe, and it said that explicitly. And so there's only one left, and the one left is for God's left-hand side. And so at this point, this 3.5-year period has literally shaken the earth, and people decide whether to take the mark of the beast or not. And those who don't give up their life, and then that's the mixed multitude seen earlier in Revelation. And so that's all God's right-hand side. The 2 witnesses are taken away. They're obviously God's right-hand side. The 144 were taken away at the beginning. And then now the mixed multitude are in the heavenly realm as well at the end of this 3.5-year period. And so the only people left are God's left-hand side, those with the mark of the beast. And God's just coming to clean up the earth, to prepare it for the kingdom of heaven, which is to be established on earth. And so just some other important sort of points. Jesus in Matthew 24 refers to the end coming only before the gospel is preached as a witness to all nations. And so that's very important and parallel to the 2 witnesses, in Revelation. And so the gospel will be preached as a witness by 2 witnesses. And so that parallelism is not, by chance. He's telling us, and giving us clues and insight into how this gospel will be preached. It's not going to be preached by any corporation, 501c3, anybody in modern day that's out there on YouTube or none of that. The gospel has to go out in a pure way, and it can only go out in a pure way by 2 righteous people. And then they will obviously have the help of all the angels and all that doing and administering all of the plagues. So that is very, very important. And again, this sequence of events is consistent throughout the entire book of Revelation. And so now the question, one could ask, if they can accept what I'm sharing here, is that, are Moses and Elijah walking among us? And I would say that likely they are, and they're also very poor. They're not on YouTube. They're not anybody that we would know. And this is why the gospel would be preached, because then people will know the gospel. They would see 2 dark-skinned men, black men, with the power to administer plagues on earth. And so this would validate Jesus' skin color, first and foremost, that they're in Mystery Babylon. It will validate the mark of the beast being evil because people who take it will have sores. It will certainly prove that we're in the end times. They will be clothed in sackcloth, and then so they'll be poor. And so that's another very important clue into understanding where God's heart is. And it will declare to the world implicitly that everybody up to that, in any quote group setting pushing, did not have the quote gospel. Like we're learning, and we have nuggets of truth, but every quote man up to that point was a liar, and so these two individuals will be representing the gospel just in their existence, and then the things that they teach and prophesy will be further confirmation. That is the actual gospel in human form. And so this is also another reason why the world will hate America, because they will, through the news media and all that, they'll start linking these two prophets to all the plagues, all the sores, all the water being turned to blood and all that. And people will hate us, anybody who's here during that time, we will be hated because they'll know that it's these two prophets doing it, giving the signal, giving the mark, giving the thumbs up to go ahead with these plagues. And so another reason more so why the other nations will turn on us and then destroy America with nuclear fire. So yeah, just to rehash, the first plague in chapter 16 is to give those who have the mark and worship the beast a sore. And so this is where God is merciful in the sense that he's going to make it more explicit. He's not just going to, it's going to become very, very obvious who is already on God's left-hand side. And so those that he's sifting during that time will see that people will have sores on their body, and then they will be the ones with the mark. And so people will then now know visually, like, wow, like we're living in those days. Like God is now judging people for taking the mark of the beast. And so Revelation 3:10 talks about an hour of temptation, and also talks about in Revelation 18 plagues coming in 1 hour. And so all these plagues again are confined to this 3.5 year period, being administered by these two witnesses, called Great Tribulation. And also at the end of Revelation 11 it says, "The nations were angry, and thy wrath has come." And so this is the final woe for God's left-hand side, and this is only for the mark of the beast takers only, and it says in Revelation 11:18, "Destroy them which destroy the earth." And so everybody, whoever is involved in like all the wars, all the pollution, all the chemtrails, poisonous food, people killing others' minds with ball earth, they're all just going to be destroyed now. And now the final woe is God's wrath on those people. So Revelation 11 is a very, very important chapter, and necessary to understand events that I believe we're going to start seeing shortly, where two people are going to be prophesying and administering plagues from America. Okay, so chapter 12 is now going through the first 3.5 year period. And so there's a total of 7 year period that marks the end times, and this first 3.5 year period is described here. And so this first 3.5 year period, though, the Bible says in Matthew that those days will be cut short for the elect's sake. And so no one knows the beginning of it, because they won't know how to measure the 3.5 years until the elect are taken away, because that will be the end of the first 3.5 year period. And so from that point back was the beginning of this first 3.5 year period. And it's using symbolism here where it's describing a woman fleeing into the wilderness, in America for 1,260 days, which is the first half of the tribulation period. And this is consistent with in the past where Moses is asking for God's people to be released to serve him in the wilderness. It's just the modern day wilderness is America. And so Revelation 12:2 is describing a woman longing to be delivered, and this is the elect. And again, the sequence of events is always the same. And so this is a woman longing to be delivered. Satan attempts to deceive the whole world during that time, including the elect. But Jesus says the elect will not be deceived. And then the serpent during this time is attempting to flood the earth with water, and just literally flooded with like lies, and philosophies, and the literal floods as well could be, it could be meaning that as well, but it's literally just a flood of just lies and ball earth and materialism and corporatism and all that kind of stuff, counterfeit Christianity, all that. And so in Revelation 12:4, it gives us symbolism of an eagle and wilderness, again referring to America. So America is very much at the center of the end times. And so this earthly battle was also depicted in the stars on September 23rd, 2017. I had an individual come on one of my streams and kind of walk us through that, and I'll put that in the links below. And so it just gives more and more confirmation that this 3.5-year period is right now, is literally, the days that we live in right now. And Revelation 12:17 says that the serpent can only make war with the remnant of her seed because 144K were taken away to begin the Great Tribulation period. And so everything is consistent. This is the serpent can only harm people during the 3.5-year period. This 144K, the elect, are taken away. And so all that Satan can do is go after their remnant, their offspring. And so, again, the sequence of events is preserved here as well. Chapter 13, this is a very, very important one, very famous one with the mark of the beast. This describes America gaining power and then having its having the ability in the end times to persuade the whole world with all these lies and different philosophies. And this explains in a symbolic way how it's how it attained that, and so it's I have a video on my channel kind of going through it, and it's, for me, it's not that important to know exactly what nation and all that is represented by this beast and all the different heads and all that and its feet, but it's just, we know that we're living in a time now because of America's dominance, and so it's not wrong to go in and try and figure out exactly what it's referring to with the different heads, but we know that we're living in that time, for sure, that there is now one major superpower on earth, and it's going to be the one that is going to be responsible for indoctrinating the entire world with things that are against God. And so this is also consistent with 2nd Esdras, where in that book the power system is described with an eagle. In Revelation 13, it's described as a beast, but it's a beast, an eagle is coming up and attaining world domination, world power, and in 2nd Esdras it's described as having various heads and various wings, and it's similar to the way it's explained here in Revelation. And so Revelation 13:13 says that it makes fire come down from heaven, with rocket landings, NASA, etc. Again, 13:13, 1 times 3, 1 times 3 is 33, Freemasonry and all that. So 33 in the heavenly realm is used to describe, good spirits, and then 33 on earth, the left-hand side, uses also that number to describe evil, and manipulation and deception. And so Revelation 13:13 talks about, this beast being able to do miracles, cool things with technology and all that kind of stuff, and we see that, all over the place. And so the most important, I would say, piece is Revelation 13:16-18, where it explicitly describes the mark of the beast and the number 666, which we see everywhere. Russian's Vids channel, to me, is the best that I've seen that goes into that and makes it very clear, that is literally everywhere. And then he also goes into 33 being associated with NASA, and Freemasonry. And so this chapter is very relevant to both periods because of really one word that's used in Revelation 13:5. It says, power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And so it's implying that this beast will be active in the first 3.5-year period, but not able to deceive the elect. But in the second 3.5-year period, it's going to continue its power. And so it's going to not just make the chip voluntary, the RFID microchip, the mark of the beast. It's going to move from making it voluntary to mandatory. And the way that it does that, an event that it uses to do that, is the 144K taken away, the God's elect taken away. People are going to make up a narrative that they're aliens, they're evil, fallen angels and all that kind of stuff. And then it's going to try and tempt people, persuade people to take the mark of the beast, because we have a foreign invader that has come and taken people from one end of the earth to the other. And so that's going to be the narrative that will force the mark of the beast upon people. But it's always going to be an option and a choice, and those who resist are on God's right-hand side. So Revelation 14 to me is also a very, very important chapter, because it's kind of a breather. The whole book is very heavy, but it gives us another vision, but it's giving us more and more confirmation in the sequence of events that I'm presenting here in this presentation, in that he's seeing and looking up and seeing 144,000 that were with Jesus. And the most important word that's used here in Revelation 14:3 is they were redeemed from the earth. And it also says, again, it actually says it in 3 and 4. It says, in verse 3, it says, which were redeemed from the earth. And then in verse 4, it says, they were redeemed among men. And so they're humans, people that were taken away. And so were implies in the past. So John's seeing this vision, and it's already happened. So these 144,000 are with Jesus at this time. And these are the group that are described as being virgins, possibly literal virgins. They follow Jesus everywhere, and they have no guile in their mouth. They're not able to lie. These are God's first fruits. These are the truthers of all truthers, here on earth. And this happening first is again supported by Revelation 3:10, where a group will be kept from the hour of temptation, those of the Church of Philadelphia, and that's the Great Tribulation period. And so this group was exempt from that. Revelation 18:4 says, "Come out of her, my people, so you don't receive of her plague." So again, implying a group that will be taken out before the plagues are administered in the Great Tribulation. And then Matthew 24:13, those who endure till the end will be saved. And then it says the gospel will be preached to a nation as a witness. And that is the 3.5-year tribulation period. And so Jesus also affirms this sequence of events, that the elect will be saved first, and then the gospel will be preached. And this to me is common sense. If these individuals have no guile in their mouth, and we're all required to lie to live here, they can't stay here. They can't be on earth and function in a beast system that is completely antichrist. And so they're taken away, and they're exempt from this hour of temptation, this 3.5-year tribulation period. And so Revelation 14:6 goes on to say that after that, the gospel is preached to all nations. And again, the sequence is consistent with everything else in this book. Verse 14:8 goes on to talk about Babylon being destroyed, which happens after this great earthquake that happens at the end of Revelation 11 and Revelation 16. And then it says in Revelation 14:9, those with the mark of the beast are destroyed. This is the final battle. It's described as a sharp sickle, a winepress, blood everywhere, wrath of God to clean up the earth of God's left-hand side. And so again, the sequence will stay the same. The whole Bible will be very confusing if a person doesn't know this. Esdras won't make sense. Matthew won't make sense. People will think Jesus is confused. Why is he saying the elect will be, those who endure till the end will be saved? And then he's talking about the gospel being preached, and then he's talking about another end after that. Then the end will come. So it seems like he's referring to two ends. But the first, it is in sequential order, like it's reaffirmed here in chapter 14. This aligns perfectly with Jesus' words and other books like Esdras. So just remember that sequence of events. So chapter 15 now is segueing, moving on to this 3.5-year period, and really diving in, to what's going to happen to test the entire world for 3.5 years. And so there are 7 plagues that are going to be administered by these 2 witnesses, and then also dropping another hint of who these 2 witnesses are. Revelation 15:3 mentions the Song of Moses. And so that's one of the 2 people that I believe is the 2 witnesses, and then I believe Moses is John the Revelator. It's the same spirit. Revelation 15:4 says, and this is a very, very important verse, "Who shall not fear thee, O Lord, and glorify thy name? for thou only art holy. For all nations shall come and worship before thee, for thy judgments are made manifest. So now God is introducing himself to the whole world, and through plagues. That's just the reality of it. I think God gives all of us a time to wake up, to acknowledge him, and like it says here, to fear him, and to glorify his name. And so those who don't, they still have a chance, but they will be tested, and it will be through pain. And so that's a very, very important verse in Revelation 15. But that cues up chapter 16, which is the sister chapter to 11. And this is the 3.5 year tribulation period. There'll be 7 angels who will have these vials, which will have plagues. And they'll be administered worldwide during this period by the 2 witnesses. And so just to go in sequence, I kind of summarize the plagues. The first one is there will be a sore on those who have the mark of the beast. And so this is why it's very important to understand the elect have to be taken away, because that's the story that's going to be used to make the mark of the beast make sense for God's left-hand side to push it on earth. They're going to be like, look, all these people were taken away. We have these foreign people. People are missing, disappeared. We have this mark of the beast. It'll help us track you. We'll know where you are and all that kind of stuff. And there'll be like a system literally worldwide that's already in place, and the technology's there to put this device, in people's bodies. And so this sore, I suspect, will not happen, on the first day. Like there'll be a disappearance of at least 144,000 men, and then people around them, elect, God's elect, and so it'll be men and women, as Jesus describes in Matthew. But it's the 144,000 are all men, and so that elite group, the first fruits, are taken away, and then so that's going to be the trigger, and the thing that God's left-hand side is going to use as a motivation to microchip people. And so, I suspect, I would guess probably like maybe in the first year or so, people will be taken away, and then all the technology that's already in place will be forced, for people to buy and sell. And then so there'll be quite a few people, because there's a mixed multitude with an innumerable number of people that will refuse. And so those are all people that refuse the mark of the beast with their life. The next thing, they turn the sea water to blood. And so this is an incredible thing. Again, all these stories in the Old Testament that seem theoretical and just like fairy tales is going to start happening. And so these 2 witnesses are able, like they've done in the past, Moses has, it's going to turn the sea water to blood, and then it's going to come into the rivers, and the more local water bodies, and then they'll turn to blood. And so next, the sun will burn people up. It's going to be a form of torture to those people who have the sores from the mark of the beast, and it'll get worse. And the next thing, America will be in darkness. It could be in the entire world, but definitely in America there'll be like a power outage or a grid failure or something because of all this calamity. The 6th one is the water being dried up in the Euphrates. This is a preparation for the final battle. And so God is going to start using these 2 witnesses to lay out, a terrain and prepare for this final battle. And number 7 is a great earthquake. And again, very, very important to know, this is the exact same one in Revelation. This is one of the major things that links chapter 16 and chapter 11 together. And this is the marker, the signpost of the end of the tribulation, great tribulation period. As of that point, afterwards, everybody on earth is on God's left-hand side. That's God's final rattling, so to speak, of the earth. And so the rest of the people left are microchipped and now about to try and fight against God, in Jesus Christ. And so at the end of this, America is burned after the 2 witnesses are taken away by the UFO. The whole world will be just irritated by the fact that these 2 prophets were administering all these plagues worldwide, and they will destroy America. And so again, this is all in exact sequence, because it even says in Revelation 16:9, after the plagues are done, after the earthquake's done, Babylon comes into remembrance and before God to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. And so now again, we see the exact same sequence. It's always 144K raptured. It's the Great Tribulation. It's America being burned. And then it's Armageddon. And so this is very, very important to know this sequence, or else, again, the whole Bible will not really make sense, actually. And so Revelation 16 is very, very important and represents the Great Tribulation period. So I'm going to kind of go through these ones a little faster just because I have videos on them in my channel, and it's not as controversial, I would say. Like, now it's continuing on. In this case, from here on, the Bible is sequential. And so America has been destroyed, and then it says in Revelation 17:16, America is burned with fire. And so it spends a bit of time at the beginning describing, America, so we know who to look for. And then it says in 17:16 that America is burned with fire. And like I said, it's like the world now attributes all of those plagues to those two prophets in America. And so, just the way the world is, they don't have any spiritual understanding. They don't understand that this is actually God doing this. They'll now destroy America. We're not buying stuff anymore, like the economies officially, run down. And that's why I believe these things have to happen soon, because the economy is going to naturally tank on its own. Like, I'm talking without even these plagues. And so that's why I believe that, and that's why this message, I believe, is fairly urgent if it ends up being true, because America is close to just unraveling on its own, much less with, seawater blood, river water blood, mark of the beast sores, and like all this other stuff. So all of those things are going to motivate the other nations to send missiles here. Some of that 200 million stockpile will be used to burn America. And our economy's crashed. We're not paying our debts. And, Revelation 18 goes into even more detail, I would say, as a courtesy to describe, a place called Mystery Babylon. And it's very obviously America. And so 17 and 18 is America being described and then being destroyed. And so Revelation 18:24 gives us even further clues who we're dealing with. In her was found the blood of the prophets. And so people wonder, like, hey, how can prophets be here in America? Well, two of them literally were killed here, the two witnesses during the Great Tribulation period. And then you have to understand reincarnation. When Jesus is telling his disciples about, the end times in Matthew 24, he says that generation will also see these things. And so he's saying that people are reborn, and he's implying reincarnation. And so for those who have an understanding, people that we look and see, they might be homeless or like don't look like very much. They could be very, very exalted spirits. We don't know what quote character they played in the past. And so it will be the same. God is going to reveal his true nature through two witnesses that are dressed in sackcloth, and they'll have the control strings over the entire world. And that will seem crazy to people. They'll be like, there's no way that that's God. There's no way that that's the God of the Bible controlling the entire world by two people who are prophesying on the streets of America, two dark-skinned who look poor. There's no way. And so if people can't receive it, then it won't make sense to them, and then they'll be more inclined to take the mark of the beast. But I would caution people that is the heart of God, that is the way God operates when he does things. He uses humble people. Elijah or John the Baptist is described as a person who just lived off the land, just didn't wear, fancy clothing. He was just very, to that time, people would consider him strange, and dressed very modestly, very humble. And Moses was very humble, didn't speak very eloquently. People would think there's no way that God's working through Moses. It's the same thing. God uses things that are foolish to the world to actually display his power, and that's he will confound the wise, with the humble, and the meek. And those are the best two examples, except for Jesus Christ. Revelation 16:16 says, "For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and now has given them blood to drink, for they are worthy." This is where God uses sarcasm and to administer his judgment. In 16, he says, "Okay, you've killed so many people around the world. Drink the blood then." And so that's part of the plagues. In Revelation 16, that will be here in America and everywhere. And this is the way God works. And again, not a coincidence that it's Revelation 16:6 or 6:6. This is a plague. So that's Revelation 17 and 18. Really describes and clarifies to us who is Mystery Babylon and why it's deserving of being destroyed. It's modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. And Revelation 19:20, this to me is still very, very important because it's the end of the story, but it doesn't apply to anybody on the right-hand side. It's just for those, again, who are spiritual and understand God is the author of good and evil. God is cleaning up the left-hand side. He's pre-programmed people to take the mark of the beast, and they're going to have the audacity to fight against these, quote, foreign invaders and think that they're going to win, and defend themselves or whatever with this stockpile of missiles. And so this is, again, how arrogant and evil, a majority of the world is. And, I go into more detail on this, in a video on my channel that I'll reference. And the very interesting thing about Revelation 19 is just, again, like I said, everything is in sequence, from this point forward, from chapter 16 onwards. I would even say 15 actually onwards, but 16 onwards is sequential. 16 describes the Great Tribulation, 17 and 18 describe Mystery Babylon being destroyed, and then 19 and 20 describe the wrath of God, where God is destroying all those people who have the mark of the beast. And then 21 and 22, like I'll get into a little bit here, is the kingdom of heaven being established on earth. And so 19:1 literally starts off and after these things. So it's right after America is destroyed, this happens. And so this is now the Battle of Armageddon. This is the wrath of God. And so it even says in verse 19:2, "He hath judged the great whore which did corrupt the earth with her fornications," talking past tense. So that's already happened. And so now this is the period of God's wrath on all those on his left-hand side, and they'll all have the mark of the beast. And it's just cleanup time. And, this is the wine press. This is where the blood will come up to like a person's waist. There'll just be dead bodies, everywhere. And they're all just actors. They're all left-hand side Satanists who took the mark of the beast. So the final two chapters in Revelation, this is where the kingdom of heaven is established on earth and God dwells with man. I've done a lesson on that as well. And this is the ending. This is what it's all of humanity really has worked towards. And the earth will be replenished, and God will dwell with us. Revelation 21:4 reads, "And God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away." So this whole movie, this whole narrative is finished, and so now we get to see what exactly was God's plan behind all of this evil and chaos and death and sorrow and all that kind of stuff. And, we look forward to this day. For any Christian who has any kind of common sense, the world that we live in now is very, very, very far from ideal. And chapter 21 and 22 explains and outlines the kingdom of heaven, what all of this turmoil was for. And then God will now declare to those on his right-hand side a new name, a way to interact with him, and we can serve him. If we're on the right-hand side, he will now have an assignment for us that will be far from the ones that were assigned here in this beast system. And so that's the end. That is the entire book of Revelation. And that is the end of evil and pain on earth. The earth will exist in a replenished state. And that's, to me, if a person doesn't understand this, I don't think they have a good chance of understanding really any aspect of the Bible. And I don't say that to be arrogant, but this is why God did all that other stuff. This is why God has allowed a tremendous amount of evil on earth, culminating towards the mark of the beast. And so this is the sequence of events. People can share this video freely. If anybody has questions, just email me. And, these days are at hand. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.